hidden walled gardens, Iron Age hill forts and clifftop walks. Join me as I walk the Glamorgan Heritage Coast from Dunraven Bay to Monknash. Not one if you're scared of heights. Well, hello and welcome. So this is Dunraven Bay, that's Southerndown. Over there in the distance, I don't know if you can see it, that's Porthcawl. This bay's been used as a location in a number of TV shows, but most famously in Doctor Who, Bad Wolf Bay, and a number of episodes. So we better watch out for Daleks. But today it's our starting point. We're leaving the car park and walking along the cliff tops to Monknash. After being in London for a few days, it's good to get back and have all this space, peace and quiet to myself. Anyway, let's get started. On the headland overlooking Dunraven Bay was the site of an important Iron Age fort. You can still see the banks and ditches on the western side, and within the enclosure there were up to 21 roundhouses. Well, since the Iron Age, this site on the headland overlooking Dunraven Bay continued to be really important, and a series of fortified strongholds were built here. The Romans came here. There's records in 1050 of the Saxons coming here, burning the place down. And then our old friends, the Normans, turned up. By the way, if you're wondering about this arch here and the rest of the ruins we're going to see, they're much later. Well, excuse the sound of the lawnmower, it's just started. Well, anyway, the site was extensively rebuilt in the 1800s as a grand manor, and that arch we saw earlier, that's from that period. During the two World Wars, it was used as a hospital, and following World War II, it became a WTA, that's the Workers' Travel Association guest house, until 1963 when it was eventually demolished. Let's take a look around. Well, below the hill and the castle, if you make your way up the road, you'll find this little doorway, and this is the entrance to the hidden walled garden. Most of the walled garden we see today dates back from the rebuild from the 1800s, but there was a paddock on this location, and that was built in 1543. One of the most interesting parts of the rebuild, though, from the 1800s, is in the corner, the ice house, and it's not as old as it looks. Let's go and take a look at that. So it may look like a medieval tower, but it was actually built in the 1800s. And this was the ice house. They actually stored the ice around the corner in the cellar. Let's go take a look at that. Obviously back in the 1800s they didn't have any freezers, so I think they packed this with ice and straw and they kept it frozen over the summer. I'm just round the corner from Dunraven Bay, just past Witches Point, and that little bay down there is a tiny bit of sand, but from sailing directions 1884 it says under Dunraven it's the only good landing place on this stretch of the coast. It just reflects how dangerous it is to sail up and down the Bristol Channel, especially along this part with all the cliffs. By the way, that leads me on to something else. The lifeboat from Porthcawl is frequently called out to rescue people under the cliffs here. They walk around from the bays, they get trapped and there's no way up the cliff face. So if you do walk around, check the tide times, make sure you can get back. Anyway, onward for us, continuing east to the next little valley inlet called Cwm Mawr. I don't know if you can see behind me, there's a valley cutting its way through the cliffs down to the beach, and this one's called Cwm Mawr. Cwm is Welsh for steep hollow, usually found at the top of the valley, and Mawr simply means big, so this is the big valley. And about a mile further along we get to Cwm Bach, which simply means little valley. Some of these you can walk down to the beach. I'm not sure on this one, but we're going around it. So I walked down to the bottom of Cwm Mawr. It was a pretty little walk, and it's quite shady down here. But unfortunately, it was a nice walk down. That means it's a steep walk back up. By the way, if you enjoy these little videos of our walks, you can now show your appreciation with a super thanks. A little tip, button down there. You don't have to. I'll still continue making them, but any money will go to my villa in the south of France appeal, or a respirator. Excuse my heavy breathing, I just walked up from the valley, but there's Cwm Mawr. So it's only a short walk along the cliff to Cwm Bach, Little Valley, which is the next one, and this one's quite interesting. There's a hill fort. There was a couple of hill forts of enclosures here, and you can still see part of it. So that's where we're heading next, Cwm Bach. So I'm now just about to cross Cwm Bach, the valley behind me, Little Valley. That's where the Iron Age hill fort was. I don't know if those mounds and those banks are part of it. We'll have a look when we get closer. So I've crossed the valley Cwm Bach and I've come up to the site of the Iron Age hill forts. Over 2,000 years ago there would have been a hill fort. I think you can see the ditches and the mounds. I think there was one here and also one slightly further up. Well, it makes sense to locate yourself here because you're protected on one side by the cliffs and the sea. You only have to protect the land. You've got rich fertile farming. You've still got access to the sea itself down the valley. I sound like a Iron Age estate agent. Also from here you could see your neighbours over in Dunraven Bay. And we can't go on any walk in Wales without bumping into a few sheep. So I've come to another valley which cuts through the cliffs. This one's called Cwm Nash, and I'm going to head up the the valley shortly. But the beach itself is referred to as Monknash Beach, and it's one of the few in the area that's got easy access for the public. But before I head up, there's something very interesting just over there. Well, this building is a rocket house, a Coastguard Rocket House. It used to hold the rescue equipment. I'm not sure how old it is exactly, but it does appear on a map from 1877. Back in the day, this channel was busy with shipping. They had just around the corner Barry Docks, Cardiff Docks, Newport, across the water, Avonmouth, Bristol. There's a lot of ships going back and forth, and there are a lot of shipwrecks in the area. It's not an easy stretch of coast. So things like this were obviously needed. So at the bottom of the cliffs at Monknash, down there, a number of bones have been found protruding from the cliff face, especially after a storm where there's been some erosion. And they believe it's an unofficial burial ground dating from 1542 to 1607. Apparently the village used this area. That they believe it was, or another theory, it could have been people buried after a sea disaster. But I think it's probably an unofficial burial yard for some reason. So I don't know how many are still buried down there. Ooh. Anyway, I'm gonna go inland now, follow Nash Brook up to the village of Broughton, I think it comes out, then back around and head back towards Dunraven Bay. As you come up the path from the beach, you go past some pretty ruins by the river. It's an old corn mill which was powered by a water wheel. You continue to walk, follow the path up from the beach. Then you get to this point. Footpath that way, and there's a big M Millennium Path that way across a wooden bridge. We take that one, which follows the brook, and it takes us to the ruins of medieval Monknash Grange. We've come across a few granges on our walks. The closest to Portugal was Scare House. That used to be a grange, and like Scare House, this one was owned by the monks of Neath Abbey. I must admit, it's not the longest walk I've done, but it's taking it out of me carrying all my stuff around today. I'm looking forward to getting back. Anyway, Monknash Grange. So I'm walking through a field. It's the last field before I get to the Grange. And I did this walk a few days ago just to scout it out. And this field is full of cows. They're really inquisitive. When I did it a few days ago, the whole herd followed me. I got really close until I left the field. And look, they're looking now. I bet you they'll be over soon. See what I mean? They're really inquisitive. You're going to follow me again. You're a fan of my channel, aren't you? On YouTube. Or do you watch MooTube? So I've escaped the cows and now we've got sheep. But in this field, this is part of the monastic grange owned by the monks of Neath Abbey. It was given to them back in the 12th century. In its day, it was quite grand. It had quite a substantial barn, outbuildings, and there's one building still standing we're going to. It's quite interesting. See if you can guess what this building is. So I was hoping to go in the building, But I got some company, some horses. I haven't got anything for you, mate. Can you guess? Can you? No. So, take two. I was interrupted by my new friend, this big horse here. What's your name, mate? Anyway, that building, I bet you know what it is. Was it a windmill? No, it wasn't. It wasn't a windmill. It wasn't a windmill. It's actually a dovecote. I was hoping to have a look inside, but this bunch have beaten me to it. They're inside already. Yeah, so the best preserved building is that dovecote. Let's go and take a look. I can hear heavy breathing behind me. Here's the culprit. Coming in after me, having a nose. Everywhere I go, this bunch follow me. Yeah, exactly. And as you can see, I managed to escape my little friends, the horses. So next is down the country lane for about a mile, then back towards the sea to rejoin the clifftop walk at Cwm Bach, the valley there, and then back down to Dunraven Bay. By the time we get to the car, it's about 8 to 9 miles. I'll show you on the map where I'm going next. I must admit, this walk's been hard today. It's been quite warm and I'm wearing long trousers because I'm paranoid about it getting ticks these days, don't know why. Anyway, if you want to see more of the walk, Nash Point, which is a continuation, which is only a couple of miles further east, that video is coming up next and I'll see you in that. Bye.